Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Tuesday in college basketball. First up, we see Mississippi State taking on Georgia Tech. This one's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on the ACC network. It's the first of many ACC SEC Challenge games for Tuesday. We're going to talk about a few of those here on the breakdown, as well as later on this week. There's a few games. Now, 21st ranked Mississippi State. They're 6-0 this season straight up, 5-1 against the number, so really incredible start to the year for the Bulldogs, but this is their first true road game of the season. They played a couple of neutral site games against some pretty tough teams in Northwestern and Washington State. 2 comfortable wins and, of course, covers in those games, but this is the first true road game, and I do worry that the offense isn't going to be strong enough to cover this big number on the road. Mississippi State, I said a few times, they're relying a lot more on the tough jump shots this year than they did in previous years. And while those shots were starting, have been falling at a pretty good rate this season, we saw last game they weren't necessarily falling against Nicholls State, as Mississippi State was 5 of 23 from the three-point line, only 21.7%. And of course, that was the first game of the year where Mississippi State did not cover the number as a really big favorite. Now you're playing Georgia Tech, who, is not great defensively, but the one thing that Georgia Tech does do well defensively is defend the perimeter. They're top 100 in three-point defense. So I could see that being an issue for this Mississippi State offense. Now, on the other side, Georgia Tech's offense, while it's not, they don't have great shooting numbers to start the year, 282nd in effective field goal percentage. They are creating pretty good looks offensively, getting pretty good open shots. They're just not falling right now, but I do think going forward, we're going to see better offensive efforts from the Yellow Jackets. I mean, they're already taking care of the basketball, getting to the free throw line, a really good offensive rebounding team, 22nd in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. So, to me, this is a really big number to lay in your first true road game. I know you're strong against the number and straight up, but Georgia Tech, I do think we see a bounce-back performance from this team after the blowout losses against Cincinnati. I do think that Georgia Tech hangs in there. I don't know if they win the game outright, but just too many points to lay on the road, so give me the points here with the Yellow Jackets at home. Next up, we see Cincinnati taking on Howard. This one's also going to be 7 p.m. Eastern, and similar to the previous game, this is going to be the first true road game of the season for Cincinnati, who, I would say has played a weaker schedule by far than Mississippi State. When you look at their 5 home games against teams outside the top 100 to start the year, and to be fair, Howard's also outside the top 100, even 200 in KenPom to start this season. But this is a home game for Howard, a program that does not get to host many Power 5 teams, Big 12 teams, in many seasons. And you got to remember, this is a team and a program that about 5-10 years ago was one of the weakest teams in Division I college basketball. They've made big strides in recent years. They made it to the NCAA tournament last year. They're a pretty talented team, especially offensively. They've got good shooters. They get to the free throw line a ton, and they're a top 70 free throw shooting team percentage-wise to start the year. And you want to talk about battle-tested, this Howard team's played 5 true road games this season. They played some pretty tough programs in Georgia Tech, James Madison, Rutgers, and their 2 home games this season against Hampton and Boston University, 2 wins and double-digit victories in those ball games. I think Howard competes. I think the Bison are going to be way up in this game because it's a home game against a program like Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati wins, but I think Howard covers the number. Give me the points here with the Bison at home. Next up, we see LSU and Syracuse. This one also part of the ACC SEC Challenge. Going to be 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. I think Syracuse got a good draw in this game. I don't really trust this LSU offense, especially in its first true road game of the year. I know the Tigers have a couple of nice wins at the neutral site games against North Texas and Wake Forest, but we also saw this team lose outright against Nicholls State at home as a big favorite, lost to Dayton at a neutral site. LSU's offense is 87th in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency. Wouldn't be surprised to see it go outside the top 100 as we near conference play. I just don't think this is a very good shooting team. They've had issues turning the ball over, and they're also not a great rebounding team. And Syracuse, while a lot of people expected this was going to be a really bad rebuilding year for a program that lost a lot in the offseason, not just a few key players, but also, of course, Jim Boeheim to retirement, I still think Syracuse actually competed at a higher level than I expected. Yes, they didn't fare too well in those neutral site games against Tennessee and Gonzaga, but you're battle tested against some of the best teams in the country. And honestly, that Tennessee game was a lot closer than the final score. It was pretty much a single-digit game the whole way until the final few minutes where Tennessee dressed it up and covered the number in the end. But Syracuse played pretty well in that game, and they played really well against Chaminade, one of the better subdivision teams in college basketball that plays in the Maui Invitational year after year. And that was the worst loss that Chaminade has taken in about about 8 years or so. Syracuse won that game 105-56, absolute blowout. The offense got going. I think we see Syracuse's offense get going here at the Carrier Dome. Really tough place to play. Give me the orange at a reasonable price on the money line. Next up, it's Miami and Kentucky. We'll stick to the ACC-SEC Challenge. This one's 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Probably the game of the night for Tuesday as we see number 8 Miami, number 12 Kentucky. And it should be a great game, but while I do think both of these offenses are some of the best in the country, I do think Kentucky has a big advantage on the defensive side, and they're also the home team. Miami's first true road game of the year. I think Kentucky wins this game and covers the number. Miami, we know, an offensive juggernaut last year, the year before, and so far this year, this team can score and score points in a hurry. 22nd in the country to average possession length, number 1 in the nation in three-point shooting, 45.8% as a team. I do think those numbers are going to regress, but still, it goes to show you almost everybody on the court for Miami can make a three and make them in a hurry, but Kentucky's offense can compete with you. You're number 6 in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency. Also a top 5 three-point shooting team. They limit turnovers better than any team in the country right now, and the defense is a lot stronger. A very good rebounding team on the defensive side. They force turnovers, a pretty good three-point defense, but an even better two-point defense. And I do think Miami's defensive struggles show up in a game like this at Rupp Arena. I think Kentucky's just too much. And, while Kentucky does have a loss this year, that was against Kansas, one of the best teams in the nation. That was a neutral site game. At Rupp Arena, it's a different story. I'm going to take Kentucky here, lay the points, which should be a pretty good game. And the final game we're going to talk about for Tuesday's card in college basketball, it's going to be NC State and Ole Miss. Why not stay in that ACC-SEC Challenge? It's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. I know you're probably saying to yourself, Ron, I see that NC State's playing their first true road game of the year. You're probably fading them here, but actually, I'm going to take NC State in this ball game. I think that Ole Miss has really benefited from a weak schedule this year. I do think that their record, one of the more, I would say, overrated records in college basketball right now. They're 5-0 this season, but 4 of those wins were at home and against teams outside the top 100 in KenPom. Their one win on the road is also against a team outside the top 100, top 150 in Temple, a team I think is going through a rebuilding year this year. And that was only a 1-point win, 77-76, in a game that Ole Miss shot 10 of 18 from 3, 56% from the perimeter, and they only won the game by 1. That's a red flag for me. I don't trust this Ole Miss offense, and especially when those numbers regress towards the mean. What happens to this Ole Miss offense? They're not going to be able to score that many points, and we've seen them before that win against Temple only score 70, 70, 75, and 69 against Alabama State, Eastern Washington, Detroit Mercy, and Sam Houston. Not necessarily juggernauts defensively. NC State, I think, is the much better team here, and they are battle-tested. They played a couple of neutral site games, including BYU, which I think is one of the best teams in the country right now. I think NC State, the far better offensive team, and even defensively, this team forces a lot of turnovers. I do think NC State wins this game, and I'm going to lay the points here with the Wolfpack on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.